Once upon a time, in the quiet village of Vila da Luz, there was a place where time seemed to stand still during Christmas. The cold brought with it the smell of burning wood, and the houses were decorated with handmade garlands. The church bell rang every morning, echoing across the snowy fields. But that December, something mysterious hung in the air. 9 people, scattered around the village, began to receive strange dreams. They were visions of a golden star, twinkling on top of a hill, accompanied by a voice that said, "Come, chosen one. The truth about you will be revealed on Christmas Eve." Among those who had the dream was Aurora, who was born on January 7th, at the very beginning of the year. Ever since she was a child, Aurora had had the gift of predicting events. They weren't complete visions, but fragments of something that, over time, became reality. At the age of 35, she worked as a midwife, helping mothers bring their children into the world. Despite her gift, Aurora lived in torment. She often knew that something bad was going to happen, but could do nothing to prevent it. Next door, Miguel, a boy born on March 14th, was waking up from the same dream. He was known as the free spirit of the village, the one who traveled around and never stayed in one place for too long. Miguel didn't follow rules and hated the idea of routine. At the age of 24, he worked as a carpenter, but more than creating furniture, his passion was building boats. He said that the wind always knew where to take him. On the other side of the square, Anna, born on April 25th, was reading about her dream in her diary. A history teacher at the village's only school, she was known for her insistence on the truth. Anna was 40 years old and was tireless in revealing what lay behind mysteries or lies. However, this often got her into tricky situations, as not everyone wanted to hear what she had to say. On the same day, Estella, a young woman born on June 8th, was painting the sunset on the window of her house. The dream intrigued her. Estella was an artist, and her canvases carried messages that often seemed to speak directly to the people who saw them. At 28, her art was appreciated, but not everyone understood the depth of her creations. Meanwhile, Joaquim, born on July 15th, was plowing the fields. He was a simple 33-year-old man who made a living from farming. Joaquim always felt that there was something else waiting for him, but he never knew what. The dream had made him anxious. Why had he, an ordinary person, been chosen? In the forest near the village lived Helena, a lonely woman born on August 23rd. At the age of 50, Helena dedicated her life to meditation and the study of medicinal plants. She rarely went to the village, but that dream made her feel that she should leave her refuge. Further down the road, in the community center, Davy, born on October 3rd, was training the young people of the village in defense techniques. A 38-year-old former soldier, Davy believed that protecting others was his greatest mission. Despite his strength, he bore the scars of past battles, physical and emotional. Nearby, in the village hospital, was Sophia, born on November 17th, taking care of a child with a high fever. At 29, Sophia was a doctor and known for her dedication. The dream moved her. It felt like a call to something even greater. Finally, Noah, an old man born on December 22nd, sat on the porch of his house. At 76, he was the oldest person in the village and had stories and advice that always helped others. The dream had moved him. He knew that this call was no accident. On Christmas Eve, all 9 of the chosen ones climbed up to the Star of the Hill, just as the dream had shown. The snow was falling softly, covering the paths in a blanket of white. At the top of the hill, they found an old chapel, decorated only with candles and a golden star on the altar. As they entered, they felt their hearts racing. Suddenly the star shone brightly, and a voice echoed through the space. "Welcome, chosen ones. Each of you has been called for a greater purpose. The day you were born was no accident. You carry gifts that the world needs. Today you will discover what it means to be a chosen one." The light enveloped you, and each of you was transported to a different scene, a decisive moment in your life. Aurora saw the birth of a baby she had helped bring into the world, but also the lives she had saved by trusting her visions. Miguel saw himself sailing the high seas, leading refugees to safety. Ana saw a day when she exposed a lie that had destroyed a family, bringing them back together. As each one experienced these visions, they felt their gifts being reaffirmed. When the light faded, they were back in the chapel. The star shone one last time, and the voice finished. "You are lights in a world that needs hope. Never forget, your gifts are not for yourselves, but for others. Follow your missions." Date of birth: January 7th. Aurora grew up being called the girl who sees the future. From an early age, she had dreams and forebodings that were always confirmed. When she was 10, she warned her mother not to cross an old bridge because she was sure it would collapse. That same day, the bridge collapsed. This gift made her special, but it also isolated her. The townspeople respected her, but many were afraid of her. "Aurora knows things that no one should know," they said. Now at 35, Aurora worked as a midwife, a job that made her feel useful, but also tormented her. She often knew when a baby wouldn't survive, but she couldn't do anything to change it. She believed that God gave her the gift, but questioned why He allowed her to see painful things without being able to prevent them. After the meeting in the chapel, Aurora was tested in a powerful way. A young mother arrived in desperation, saying that her baby was about to be born, but something was wrong. Aurora felt a chill run down her spine. She saw, in a flash, the mother's face filled with sadness, and her husband crying in the future. It was as if she was faced with a choice: accept what she saw as inevitable, or trust God to act beyond what was logical. Aurora remembered the story of Joseph in Egypt, who had visions and was rejected, but used his gifts to save his family and an entire nation. With faith, she knelt beside her mother and prayed, quoting Jeremiah 33:3. "Call to me and I will answer and tell you great and unsearchable things that you do not know." The baby was born weak, but alive. Aurora stayed by his side all night, making sure that every breath was a step towards recovery. For the first time, she realized that her visions were not just warnings, but opportunities to intercede and trust. Her gift was to protect, not to carry everything herself. Date of birth: March 14th. Miguel was the opposite of Aurora. Where she saw responsibility, he saw freedom. From an early age, Miguel felt that the world was too big to be lived in one place. He was the village adventurer, climbing mountains, crossing rivers, and dreaming of seeing the ocean. But for his family, this was a problem. "You never finish anything, Miguel," they said. At the age of 24, he had become a carpenter, but even at that, his projects were half finished. After the chapel call, Miguel felt uncomfortable. He didn't understand how he could be chosen. However, as he pondered this, he saw a group of children playing on the frozen lake. He shouted for them to leave, but one of them fell into the water. Without thinking twice, Miguel ran over, pulled the boy out, and used his coat to warm him up. As the boy's mother thanked him through tears, Miguel remembered a passage from Matthew 14, when Peter walked on water but began to sink. Immediately, Jesus stretched out his hand and held him. Miguel realized that his freedom wasn't about running away, but about always being available. His courage to face the unexpected was a gift he should use to save and inspire. For the first time, he wanted to stay, not out of obligation, but to help. Date of birth, April 25th. Anna had always been a defender of the truth. A history teacher in her 40s, she believed that knowledge was liberating. But her insistence on telling the truth at any cost often got her into difficult situations. Once, she exposed a community leader who was diverting resources to himself. But instead of being applauded, she was isolated by the majority who preferred not to face reality. After the call, Anna found herself facing a dilemma. During Christmas dinner, a neighbor quietly confessed to her that he had stolen a basket of food from another family to feed his children. Anna was shocked, but the man's voice trembled with regret. She knew she had to act, but how? Just exposing the mistake would be cruel. She remembered John 8, when Jesus intervened for a woman accused of adultery and said, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone." Anna took the man aside and helped him return the food. She then discreetly organized a campaign in the village so that all the families would have enough to eat. She realized that the truth was not just to be spoken, but to be used with compassion. Date of birth, June 8th. Estella was a 28-year-old artist whose paintings always moved people. She used color to convey feelings that words couldn't express. However, Estella felt that her art was often underestimated, seen only as pretty and not as something powerful. On Christmas morning, after the call, Estella decided to paint a mural in the central square of the village. She worked in silence all day, attracting the curiosity of the locals. When she finished, she revealed a scene of hope. The whole village under a golden star, with people helping each other and smiling. The villagers, moved, began to share stories of kindness they had experienced. They remembered Jesus' words in Matthew 5:16. "Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Estella realized that her art was a way of touching hearts and opening paths to faith. Date of birth, August 23rd. Helena had lived away from the village since the death of her husband 15 years ago. At the age of 50, she found comfort in solitude and nature, dedicating herself to studying medicinal plants and meditating. For her, silence was a sanctuary, but also a barrier that isolated her from relationships. Deep down, she felt guilty for not being closer to people, but she feared facing the world again. After the call in the chapel, Helena went down to the village on Christmas Day. Walking hesitantly, she passed the church and saw a teenage girl crying alone on the steps. The girl, Lara, confessed to being overwhelmed by anxiety and fear. "I feel like everything is falling apart, and I don't know how to go on," she said. Helena felt touched, remembering when, at the height of her pain, she had found comfort in the words of Psalms 46:10. "Be still and know that I am God." Helena taught Lara to breathe deeply and connect with the present moment, explaining that silence can be a blessing, not an enemy. Before leaving, she gave her a herb that she had prepared as a tea, promising that she would return to accompany her. For Helena, that encounter was a revelation. Her connection with solitude and nature was not just for herself, but a gift to help others find peace. Date of birth, July 15th. Joachim was known for his simplicity. At 33, he lived off what he planted and helped anyone he could. But there was an emptiness in his heart, a feeling that he wasn't living his true mission. "Why me, Lord? I don't know anything special," he would often mutter in his prayers. On Christmas Eve, Joaquin was on his way home when he saw an elderly man stumbling on the road. He helped him up and invited him to spend the night at his house. The man, called Elias, looked tired and hungry. While Joaquin prepared soup, Elias began to share stories of his life as a carpenter, traveler, and counselor. Elias stared at Joaquin and said, "Do you think that being simple is not enough? Know that Jesus chose fishermen and farmers like you to carry his message to the world." At that moment, Joaquin remembered the words of Matthew 25:35. "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in." He quoted Deuteronomy 32:7. "Remember the former days, consider the generations of old. Ask your fathers, and they will tell you, your elders, and they will explain." As he spoke, the young people felt a flame of hope rekindle in their hearts. Noah understood that his mission was to be a bridge between the past and the future, ensuring that the lessons of faith were passed on. On Christmas Eve, the 9 chosen ones of Vila da Luz discovered that their gifts, however simple or grand they might seem, were part of a greater purpose. Each of them, in embracing their mission, found something that went beyond themselves: a God who guides, restores, and gives meaning to our lives. This story reminds us that we all have something unique within us. Every challenge we face, every moment of doubt or weakness, is an opportunity to connect with a higher calling. Just like the chosen ones, you too are called to be light, to spread goodness, and to find in God the strength to transform your journey. Christmas is a time of renewal, an invitation to rediscover the love that God has for you. It's a time to look to the promises of Christ, the one who came into the world as light, hope, and salvation. Jesus is the greatest proof that we are not alone, that we are loved, and that there is a purpose for every life. The devotional, The Chosen 40 Days with Jesus, is a transformative guide to deepen this journey. For 40 days, you will be led through reflections, prayers, and teachings based on the life of Christ, helping you to find clarity and purpose. It's a journey to renew your faith, understand your role in God's plan, and bring hope to your life and those around you. If this message has touched your heart, write in the comments, "I accept the call and want to walk with Jesus." The link to buy the devotional is in the first comment. Be sure to start this 40-day journey and discover how your gifts can shine even brighter. Remember, just like the chosen ones in the village, you have a unique role in this world. God chose you and loves you. This Christmas, may you feel that love, that peace, and the renewal that only He can offer. Be light, be hope. You are one of the chosen ones. Sparkles.